Um, I just want to start by saying how great it is to be back with you. If you see me looking down, I'm trying to get this live set up because if I don't get this live set up, I know I'm gonna hear Mr. Brown. So give me 1 second. Okay. And then let me make sure we got my Broadview strong shirt showing. But again, I want to welcome you all back to the Love Movement Youth Podcast for our very first show back of 2026. And it's just me. I know. I don't believe that youth voices are monolith. I know that there are different perspectives, different voices, and different opinions. But for our first show back, I kind of wanted to just have one like a sit back and chill and have a conversation. No debates, no politics. Let's just have a conversation of what's been going on around us. So for me, I'm gonna give you guys my, what's going on in 2026 for me. It's a very big year. I'm in my senior year of high school this year, my last semester. I'm getting my associate's degree along with my high school diploma with Proviso's dual degree program. I've got accepted into some great schools with great scholarship money. I'm also looking for more scholarships if anybody knows anyone. Shameless plug for me right there. Along with that, I am kind of finishing up my term and started to do a little more introspective and reflective thinking on what leadership looks like, and who I want to be as a leader. And so that's something that I've been kind of doing some introspective thinking on who I am becoming, and who is the man that I want Jarrell David to be. Um, so just to go over some things that have happened in Chicago and in the Proviso Township area. Let's recognize that the Bears were literally about 2 games away from the Super Bowl. And I love Caleb Williams. I'm forgiving Caleb Williams. I'm not really forgiving Caleb Williams. I'm really forgiving DJ Moore. But, I love the Bears. We thank them for like the best season in recent history. I don't know. I just felt like so much energy, so much joy was brought back to our city and our surrounding areas, especially here in Proviso. Like everybody was having some Bears theme brunch going on. I know at the View, shout out to the View, one of our sponsors and Tasteful. They were having some amazing sporting events for our for those of you who are big Bears fans. And I don't know, it just kind of felt like a really long time since we seen a lot of joy brought back into our city like that. It felt like we were all rooting for the same thing, the same values, the same mission, so that we could get the same result. And what I love so much is even after the Bears lost, there was a video out on Instagram where these guys like went out and they went out and they still crowned like this Caleb Williams lookalike challenge. And Chicagoans packed the place out. The guy had the finger painted nails and everything. And Chicagoans packed the place out to support this. And it just showed me, not even just Chicagoans, we saw people from Proviso in their, football gear out there watching the Bears game. So we really saw a lot of people come together from different worlds, different perspectives, different lived experiences, but still coming together to root for the same team, their home team. And that kind of brings me to what I think is, really going on. Something that we should have a conversation about. And it's just like what's been happening this past year. We have seen so much division, so much hatred, and just so much darkness um, that has come around us. We've seen it stem from our political perspectives, from the political arena. Usually we say politics is a dirty game, but now politics has become something so much worse. I talk to people all the time and they're like, why should I get involved? You know, why should I even put my name out there? And then it's like, if you do put your name out there, if you do go to these protests, am I in danger? And these are conversations that Gen Z and Gen Alpha are having on a daily basis. This is why, Mr. Brown and the Love Movement staff asked me to come here so we can give you the unadulterated perspective of what the conversations that young people are having. And I think so much so we have leaders of today that are so focused on litmus tests of saying the right thing, of being approved by the right crowd, of getting the base out, of having these sort of cultural messages. Let me tell you something. One of the great leaders of Proviso, Mayor Booker, put something out, and he was talking about these ICE protests and these how certain stances elected officials in performative politics that elected officials were taking, and I really appreciated it because what he called out was. How are we standing? And I like how he brought it back to the Black community too. He said, we're standing up. Everybody's taking these positions on these ICE and making their posts and stuff, but nobody's really having the real conversations on the policy perspective, the agenda. How can we make our community better? How are we going to fight back after this? Where are we looking at towards after this? And that's where my generation is really looking at. Where are we going once all of this mayhem is over? And that's kind of why I put my Broadview Strong shirt on today, because as a Broadview resident, as somebody who's watched Mayor Katrina Thompson's leadership during this time, especially during a time where we see Black women, especially in politics, are getting attacked more and more lately. We're going to talk about that a little later before the end of the show. But we saw an extreme overreach of power from the Donald Trump administration and Broadview. And we saw a mayor of a town of about 8,000 people, a Black woman, the only woman to be a mayor in this entire township, stand up and call it out. And not only did she call it out, she got with her village, she got a plan together, she worked with her state elected officials, she made sure that everybody was working together collaboratively so that we could get a message. And that we can have protections in our community. And I think that's something that we overlook in the Black community. We had a leader step up in a moment of crisis and nobody else was standing up there with her. From the conversations that I've heard, like, it wasn't an easy battle and she still stood up. And what we have to realize in this moment, we are not wrestling against flesh and blood here, people. There is something so much deeper that is happening with our soul of our country. And so to see Mayor Thompson's not only just stand up for what was right, but for what was morally right, for what was morally, righteous, and for what was her moral obligation as a leader, which was to say, this might be a federal facility in my jurisdiction, but it is not something that I'm okay with. It is not something that I am saying is all right. Mayor Thompson called out the just abhorrent conditions of the ICE facility. And I have to give a shout out to her legal team because we can always fight rhetoric with rhetoric, but what are you putting behind it? So she and her legal team got together, they got the fence down. They made sure that they were fighting against some of these policies. Like, who puts a fence up? Like, now you're making it. Let me tell you, going down 25th was not an easy day, right, Wanda B? Going down 25th during this time was not something easy. And we had a Democratic Party meeting, a proviso right across the street from it. And it was just so unreal to see, as somebody who grew up in Broadview, walked the streets of Broadview, to see a real ICE facility, protesters, and just such a historic moment happening literally in my backyard. So I just wanted to make sure that we thanked Mayor Thompson publicly for standing up and for fighting back and for just showing what it meant to be Broadview strong. Along with that, I want us to look into these abhorrent murders that have taken place in the city of Minneapolis, Minnesota. Renee Good and Alex Pretty. Um, and it just calls for a moment. I know in our classes, and all these conversations, and I just keep going back to this ICE conversation because it is something that is want to be. I know I don't want to be so repetitive with the people, but it's like it's something so important to our generation because this is something that we will have to inherit. And a lot of people sometimes say young people are just crying for nothing, but when you think about all the problems my generation is going to have to inherit, like these are real problems that are calling for real leaders and real solutions during this time. And I'm so sick and tired, and I know my generation is too, of leaders who preach the same rhetoric but give us no different solutions, who say they're going to do this thing and say this is the agenda, but don't change the program, don't change anything. And it's just like we're moving in stagnant leadership. And this country cannot move forward unless we have new leadership. So grateful for our new leaders in Provide. So grateful for the Mayor Bookers, for the amazing Mayor Thompsons, the Mayor Harveys, the Mayor Serpico, the Mayor Tamburinos, because it takes a collective of them to stand up against all of this. Now, moving on. ICE has been a big thing, yes, but we have to remember that Donald Trump has been in office for a year now. And I know we were going to talk about politics, but we're going to move past it really quickly. I just want to give like a quick 2025 year in review. So Donald Trump's back in office for his second term. Um, what happened there, people? We all thought something different was going to happen, but it happened. And so how are we coping with that? We see, like we talked about it, how ICE has become this out of control organization. We see immigration raids. We see a country divided. We see young people that are afraid to come to schools. We do see all of this hatred and all of this despicableness happening. But while we see that happening, let's turn to like what's happening at our front door locally. We see Proviso West principal doctor. Well, I'm not going to say doctor. Mr. Jeremy Christian is just been named Principal of the Year over at Proviso West. So shout out to Mr. Christian, Principal Christian over at Proviso West for his amazing leadership. And not only to Principal Christian, but to also the students and the staff of Proviso West for buying into Principal Christian's leadership vision, for buying into what the district is trying to do to move forward. Another great thing, Proviso West, not Proviso West, Proviso East has actually moved up in its ranking in ISB. So they are now commendable. And this is something big when you're talking about a school that was at the bottom of the ISB list a couple years ago. And you have a leader like Mr. Hall who comes in 3 years in, 3 or 4 years in now, or five, and kind of changes the entire trajectory of a school with his leadership team. So shout out to Proviso East leadership team of Mr. Hall, Dr. Lang, and all of those amazing officials for kind of pushing this thing forward. And not only that, we see some amazing updates from Superintendent Mohib. The Board of Education and Proviso is talking about getting student board members. Let's give a shout out for that. I mean, I remember my freshman year at Proviso, we had such a divisive board that they didn't even want students to really be there. Like we were asking the students to show up to fight back, and it was just like so much. It was like wow. And we were fighting for student board members behind closed doors. But I'm so glad from those discussions with the superintendent roundtable back when I was a freshman and sophomore that we can now reap those benefits that we've sown in our labor. So shout out to Superintendent Mohip and to that amazing board led by President Jenny Barberhan and her amazing vice president. You guys are doing you're doing the work. So shout out to you all. To some of our sponsors, I know I called out The View. They're having some amazing Valentine get-togethers. You should get there as well. Along with that, we have Tasteful. Let me get the whole list for you guys. We have, sorry, I just be wanting to make sure. We have the Blue Note, we have Tastefuls, we have the Village Dispensary, the Ave, and Stacy's Cafe, High Tower Financial, and we just want to give a special thanks to all of our sponsors. Just a special thanks to all of you for contributing to the love movement, for moving us forward. Again, it's going to be a really short show because I don't, we're giving a recap of 2025 and what we think 2026 should be from the Gen Z perspective. So yes, we've had a lot of things going bad nationally, but we still have a lot of things going good locally. And we have to remember that. Like we see a lot of small businesses closing, but I just called out over seven: High Tower Financial, the Ave, Stacy's Cafe, The View, the Blue Note, Tastefuls. All of these places provide, so we have to get there and support them because we're seeing small businesses close and we're seeing billionaires get richer. Let's make sure we're putting pockets into the people who are paying property taxes, who are making sure that your property taxes are lowered, who are making sure that they're bringing in more income into your village, more people, and more exposure so that your community can become a greater community. So shout out to all of those businesses. And last thing, Wanda B, I told you I like to keep my podcast short when it's just me. Um, the last thing I wanted to talk about when we talked about these killings of Alex Parte and Renee Good, I wanted to kind of slow it down here. I feel like I've been moving a little fast, but I want to slow it down here. When you see a mother of three gunned down and killed in the streets of Minneapolis, and she was just trying to move her car, when you see an ICU nurse who is using his Second Amendment right, the right to bear arms, and you see them gunned down and killed Alex Brete 10 times. Renee Good, I think she was shot 3 times while driving her car. And during these things, you don't see any remorse from these federal officials. So I just want to shout out to the people of Minneapolis for standing up because you all give us hope. You all make us aware that when we do stand up, when we do get together collectively with one mission, with one goal, with one agenda, true change can truly happen. So when we see that in Minneapolis, I don't want us to get confused. There is an election coming up. And a lot of us are Facebook warriors and internet trolls. We are able to have a clapback for anybody in them comments, but when it comes to getting to a ballot box, all of a sudden we just get too busy. Did I say that out loud, Wanda B? I did. Okay. As Bishop Stevenson says, it's tight, but it's right. Um, you cannot sit at home and say that you're outraged and you're upset and your pocketbooks and the inflation is going up and prices are high and I can't afford a carton of eggs. You can't say you're for that stuff and you're upset about it and not get out and vote about it. So I want us to recap this one thing, Wanda B. We just had our Illinois U.S. Senate debate, and I was in my group chat. I was in my group chat, and we were texting, and we were looking at this debate, and something that came up was just like so crazy to me was like there was a litmus test question, like, are you going to abolish ICE? And here's my thing. One candidate said they would. And I'm not gonna say anything about the other candidates' responses because one was like we should overhaul and reform. And I don't know what Krishnamurthy's answer truly was, but um, here's how I think about this. We shouldn't be pushing for so many radical ideas before we try practical solutions. Um, when we look at ICE during Donald Trump's administration, and when we look at why these killings of Renee Good and Alex Parte happened, it's not because these were people with training in de-escalation. These weren't people who understood law enforcement. ICE is hiring 18-year-olds and offering a $50,000 bonus, a sign-on bonus, and they are doing less than 6 months of training now. Like, these are conversations we were having in our group chat, and so one thing that we said was, like, we have to admit there has to be somebody to enforce the laws of our immigration system, but there also has to be somebody to reform the laws of our immigration system. So while all of these people are saying, yeah, let's abolish ICE, let's abolish this, let's get rid of Donald Trump's this, let's get rid of that. Let's remember that after Donald Trump, there's still a United States of America. There is still a government that you have to govern, and there is still real work that has to be done. And so I want to give shout out to real leadership who's focusing on lowering costs for the everyday American. Real leadership who's focusing on families like mine, who's being raised by a single mom who raises 4 children by herself, and nobody's talking about how they cut SNAP benefits or how healthcare is still going to go up for 22 million Americans because we haven't found a real solution for that. People, do not get confused by the noise. Don't get confused by the noise. There is still real policy and debate that needs to be answered. We have so many elections coming up in Illinois, it makes no sense. Illinois' ninth congressional district is up. Illinois' 8th congressional district is up. Illinois' 4th congressional district is up. We have Illinois' 7th congressional district up. You have a U.S. Senate seat up. You have the Illinois State Comptroller's race. So really go look into Holly Kim, the current uh, Lake County Comptroller, who's really showing real receipts when it comes to reinvesting the money that she's receiving from her county and bringing back real investments for her constituents. So that's your state comptroller's race. Like, there are real elections happening on March 17th, primary elections, and November 3rd, which is election day, that we have to get tapped into. Um, and I think that's Wanda B, that's it for me because Again, the love movement, I don't believe you got to be long to be strong. I gave you I gave you your recap, and all the best you can do with it is use it. Um, and here's my last thing on to be actually. One thing that I did want to say, in the moments of despair and chaos and confusion that we are going through, we must come together to find real hope and joy in the small things. So if this is just like too much for you to process, and I know I went kind of fast on this today. Again, I'm in my senior year of high school. So many things going on. I'm trying to fit everything into my schedule. So don't worry, we're gonna have longer. No, I'm not gonna say we're gonna have longer videos, but we're gonna have more impactful discussions and conversations coming forth with you guys this year before I'm off to my college next August. But until then, we're having real conversations and we're stepping into this space of using third party media to kind of push out the perspectives of young people. And it's not just going to be me. The Love Movement Youth Podcast is not just a monolithic voice for all young people in Proviso. Jarrell David does not speak for all young people in the Chicagoland area. And so we will be bringing in more young people so that we can have more impactful conversations, differing opinions, and so that we can find true collective agreement in our bipartisan conversations. Um, so yeah, that's what I wanted to tell you guys. Just find joy in it. Like the Love Movement Youth Podcast is about to get better and bigger, but also along with that, this country has to get better and bigger in the conversations we have. We saw a U.S. House member that was abruptly assaulted and sprayed something on her, and there was no security there. But Ilhan Omar said, "I'm not backing down to bullies," and almost she said, "Nuck if you buck." Basically, if you ask me, if you were on the West Side, it would have been "Nuck if you buck." But that's kind of what happened there, and so we have to start asking the questions like these are the questions we have to start asking, right? Like we have to start saying, who's going to protect these elected officials? Like this is a thankless job. Don't think they're getting paid all this money. It's not true. Elected officials don't get paid a lot of money. It's the taxpayers' dollars. We ain't trying to rob y'all. So, and I'm not going to say we because I'm not an elected official. So we going to see what God has planned for me, but I don't know if it's that. But we're seeing real electeds attacked. We've seen assassination after assassination. We have just seen hatred and political violence out the kazoo. And all I want to leave you guys here with the Love Movement Youth Podcast first edition back 2026 is in 2026 the Love Movement Youth Edition is focusing on pushing real love with purpose and intentionality, real love with real meaning, with real respect and intention to one another. And that's how we're going to move this country forward. We're going to be having real impactful conversations, and we're going to be making sure we're pushing real impactful solutions from the youth perspective. God bless you all. May God keep you all. And to God's honest truth, it has been a pleasure to stand before you for my 25 minutes. Bye bye. Remember, it's the love movement, y'all. Spread the love.
Just got dressed, need something to get into. Pretty girl on deck.